In the early decades of the 21st century, humanity is witnessing the rise of one of the most powerful and disruptive forces in history: artificial intelligence. As machine learning systems become more advanced, capable of processing immense volumes of data, making predictions, and automating complex tasks, they begin to reshape not only industries and institutions, but the very economic logic that has underpinned modern society for more than 2 centuries. Capitalism, the dominant global economic model since the Industrial Revolution, is built on a set of foundational principles: private ownership of capital, market competition, wage labor, and the pursuit of profit. Its success has been profound. It has lifted billions out of poverty, driven innovation, and transformed standards of living around the world. But it has also created structural inequalities, recurring crises, and deep social divisions. Today, capitalism is confronted by a challenge it was never designed to face: intelligent automation. In the traditional capitalist framework, labor is not only a cost of production, it is also the source of income that enables consumption. Workers earn wages, wages fund spending, and spending drives demand. But when intelligent machines begin to displace human workers on a large scale, this cycle begins to unravel. According to a study by Goldman Sachs, artificial intelligence could automate the equivalent of 300 million full-time jobs globally. While new jobs may be created, they will often require skills or access to education that displaced workers do not possess. The result is a widening gap between those who benefit from technological change and those who are excluded from it. At the same time, AI does not participate in the economy as humans do. It does not consume, pay taxes, vote, or require shelter. It produces value without generating demand. As more companies turn to AI-driven systems for efficiency and profitability, the link between human labor and economic growth begins to dissolve. This has profound implications. Capitalism assumes that productive labor is the foundation of wealth creation and that competition ensures the fair distribution of resources through the market. But in an AI-driven economy, capital becomes increasingly concentrated in the hands of those who control algorithms, data, and computational infrastructure. The owners of these tools reap enormous profits, while large portions of the population face declining job prospects, stagnant wages, and economic precarity. This trend is not speculative. It is already underway. Companies like Amazon, Google, and Microsoft are investing billions in AI infrastructure, not to enhance human labor, but to replace it. In sectors from logistics to finance, the most profitable business model is not one that empowers workers, but one that eliminates them. As machines outperform humans in cognitive tasks once thought uniquely human, legal research, medical diagnostics, customer service, even creative writing, the economic value of the average worker declines. This is not a temporary dislocation. It is a structural shift. Artificial intelligence is not simply another wave of automation like the steam engine or the assembly line. It is qualitatively different. It does not merely augment labor, it competes with it across both manual and intellectual domains. In doing so, it breaks the historical compromise that made capitalism sustainable, the idea that economic growth would benefit both capital and labor. As this compromise erodes, new forms of inequality emerge. Wealth is no longer tied to effort or merit, but to technological ownership. Some economists argue that we are entering a new phase of technofeudalism, where value is extracted not through traditional markets, but through digital monopolies and algorithmic control. In this environment, traditional policy tools such as taxation, welfare, and education are often insufficient to restore balance. Even universal basic income, once considered radical, is now being debated seriously as a potential response to mass technological unemployment. Yet these proposals treat the symptoms, not the causes, of systemic transformation. The deeper question is whether capitalism itself, as an economic system built on labor, competition, and scarcity, can survive in a world where labor is obsolete, competition is replaced by algorithmic optimization, and scarcity is redefined by digital abundance. Some futurists envision a post-capitalist society enabled by AI, a world of decentralized autonomous organizations, resource-sharing networks, and data commons. Others warn of a darker scenario: rising authoritarianism, mass surveillance, and the entrenchment of corporate technocracies. One thing is clear: artificial intelligence is not merely a tool within capitalism. It is a force that may ultimately transcend it. As we move further into the 2020s, we must ask not only what AI can do for our economies, but what kind of economies we need in a world shaped by AI. The very premise of modern economic life, that labor creates value and that this value is distributed through wages, becomes increasingly fragile in an age when machines, not humans, produce the value, yet cannot themselves consume or demand goods and services. This dynamic introduces a paradox. The more efficiently machines produce, the less need there is for human workers. Yet the fewer workers who are paid wages, the less aggregate demand exists to absorb production. This is what classical Keynesian economists referred to as the underconsumption problem, and in the AI era, it threatens to become permanent rather than cyclical. John Maynard Keynes, writing in the early 20th century, warned that technological unemployment might one day outpace the economy's ability to reabsorb displaced workers. At the time, he was largely dismissed. The post-war boom and successive waves of innovation created millions of new jobs in new industries. But the AI revolution is not simply creating new sectors, it is recursively improving itself, learning from data, and becoming increasingly generalized in its capabilities. Whereas past industrial revolutions replaced muscle, the current revolution replaces cognition. Tasks that were once considered uniquely human, such as language comprehension, decision-making, pattern recognition, and even empathy, are now being mimicked and, in some cases, surpassed by machine intelligence. This calls into question not only the role of labor but the very definition of human economic utility. When large language models are capable of generating text indistinguishable from that written by experts, and when AI systems can interpret complex medical images more accurately than radiologists, entire professional sectors face redundancy. Unlike previous disruptions, this one affects not only blue-collar workers but also white-collar professionals, including accountants, analysts, journalists, and even educators. In this context, the traditional notion of a meritocratic market, where education and skill acquisition lead to upward mobility, becomes increasingly tenuous. If a machine can outperform a highly educated worker at a fraction of the cost, then education ceases to be a reliable path to economic security. This undermines one of the ideological pillars of capitalism, the belief in the fairness and accessibility of opportunity. The economic consequences are significant. As labor's share of income declines, so too does consumer purchasing power. Meanwhile, capital owners, those who control AI infrastructure, proprietary datasets, and computing resources, see their profits rise. This dynamic accelerates wealth concentration, erodes the middle class, and increases economic polarization. A 2022 report by the OECD warned that, without intervention, the rise of automation could result in a dual economy, where a small elite controls vast technological assets, while a growing majority experiences economic marginalization. This is not merely an issue of fairness. It is an issue of systemic stability. Capitalism relies on mass participation. When large segments of the population can no longer engage meaningfully in the economy, whether as producers or consumers, the system begins to fracture. History offers ample precedent. The economic crises of the 1930s, the stagflation of the 1970s, and the financial collapse of 2008 each revealed how fragile the capitalist system can be when confronted with deep structural imbalances. What makes the current transition more perilous is the speed and scope of change. In the past, industrial transformation unfolded over decades. Today, AI-driven disruption can reshape entire industries in a matter of months. Consider the case of automated trading algorithms. Once introduced, these systems rapidly took over global financial markets, executing trades in milliseconds and making decisions that human traders could not match. While efficient, this shift also contributed to market instability, as seen in the 2010 flash crash, when automated trading systems triggered a rapid and severe market drop within minutes. Similar dynamics are now appearing in other sectors. In journalism, AI-generated articles are replacing human writers. In customer service, conversational bots are answering millions of inquiries per day. In law, document review and contract analysis are increasingly performed by algorithms. These changes reduce costs for firms, but they also eliminate jobs and reduce the flow of wages into the economy. Moreover, as AI systems become more integrated into corporate decision-making, the logic of short-term efficiency increasingly overrides longer-term considerations such as worker well-being, community stability, or environmental sustainability. Algorithms do not possess moral intuition. They optimize for measurable outcomes, often profit, without regard for social context. This can lead to decisions that, while rational from a computational perspective, are ethically problematic and socially corrosive. At the macroeconomic level, this creates a feedback loop. As labor is displaced and wages stagnate, aggregate demand weakens. To sustain consumption, households turn to credit. Debt rises. Financial institutions respond with more complex instruments to manage risk. Eventually, the system becomes unstable. When defaults rise or asset bubbles burst, the resulting crises require massive public intervention, bailouts, stimulus packages, and emergency monetary policy. Each time, the state steps in to preserve a system that increasingly fails to distribute its benefits equitably. But what happens when even the state itself becomes automated? With the rise of algorithmic governance, predictive policing, and AI-assisted bureaucracy, public institutions are also becoming more reliant on machine intelligence. This raises concerns about transparency, accountability, and democratic legitimacy. If decisions about resource allocation, social benefits, or legal judgments are made by opaque algorithms, who is responsible when outcomes are unjust? Some thinkers, such as economist Mariana Mazzucato, have argued for a reimagining of the role of the state, not as a passive regulator of market outcomes but as an active shaper of innovation and equitable growth. Others, such as Yuval Noah Harari, have warned that the combination of AI and data monopolies could lead to the rise of digital dictatorship, systems of power so efficient and omnipresent that they render traditional political agency obsolete. These are not hypothetical threats. They are plausible trajectories in a world where control over data and algorithms becomes the primary source of economic and political power. And yet, for all its disruption, AI does not necessarily signal the end of economic life. What it does challenge is the assumption that capitalism, in its current form, is the best or only framework for organizing that life. As technological capability expands, so too must our imagination. If you found this exploration insightful, make sure to subscribe to AI Finance Mastermind for more in-depth analysis on how artificial intelligence is transforming finance, economics, and our world. Your support helps us continue creating thoughtful, research-driven content that matters. Don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment with your perspective. This video is intended for educational and informational purposes only. It does not constitute financial advice or professional economic guidance. Always do your own research and consult with a qualified advisor before making any economic or investment decision.